pre-show. Yeah, welcome to the pre-show, folks. I do have some secret stuff that Dennis doesn't
Ooh,
know about. I actually had a little
I like
time
secret
this week.
stuff.
Yeah. So I had some time, and let me pull it up. Let's see, make sure I'm pulling up the right thing here. Yeah. So what you're seeing, I love charts. This is the touch report. So the team's average PPR scoring per
Ooh,
touch, seconds per play. So now we have touch per second, and then I scaled it to the league average. So there are above league average and below in green are above, and those are below. So these below means that they're scoring less points per second per touch. So they're just slower. Doesn't mean they won't score points. It's just slower. And if you graph that, Dennis, it's more dramatic than just staring. So let me show that. Look at the Rams.
whoa,
Yeah, whoa,
holy
look at
mackerel.
so damn. I'm when I saw this, Dennis, I said maybe I need to put $2 on the Rams making it far in the playoffs, ladder up some bets of playoffs and then, the champ and then the Super Bowl champ, kind of take $4 or $5 and spread. I don't know what odds I would get, but I need to, that's what I think that's what they talk about when they talk about laddering is you make some
Right,
bets
right,
that
right, right.
kind of springboard off each other. Maybe that, I don't know, that may not be the definition, but that seemed logical to me. But I saw this and I'm like, wow, what can somebody like Puka do with a quarterback that apparently will and can use him? That synergy is kind of, it reminded me of Brady and Edelman and Gronk and some of those. Brady was very. I mean, you still talk about those tandems, and I know in the past there were
Oh yeah.
tandems. And it just makes me wonder. They're kind of above the fray, and that's what the data says. If you figure out scoring per touch per second, Dennis, that's the Rams are amazing. Detroit, number two. Baltimore, again, this is, the first 5 weeks, so there's still some Lamar Jackson in there. And eventually San Francisco, Minnesota, Washington, Chicago, and New England. And KC's right there, that next wave, Seattle, Buffalo, New Orleans. I was so proud to see New Orleans had a spark of life there. And on the other end, look at the ones at the bottom. Atlanta. The
Oof.
reason Atlanta is because their home way splits are so crazy. I mean, that may be just by chance. The Giants, I think they're going to be taking, that's going to change. I mean, doesn't include, Thursday's game, but I'm curious to see, Dennis. We'll see this. I'll track this again in a few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. We will have this and we can compare. In other words, going into our playoffs, we can have this metric and then what's they've done in the last few weeks and compare who's really improved or not at the team level. And I do like that. I like to track team movements and then focus on the teams that are, moving in a positive way for trades, for, just lineups and just these kind of things as well. Especially, I always figured a lot of my data is helpful for dynasty people because it kind of
Yes.
gives you some insight into the teams that may be coming on late and you can make some deals going into next season, especially if you're building, if you can kind of see, and you try to capture that with your last six and that kind of,
Yes. Yep.
by doing that, you've shown, I think, that concept. And so the big concept is catching these
Yes.
streaks towards the end. It's like when things are finally gelling, maybe the rookies are coming on, the everybody's working and you're catching that, and it may still be hidden, right? The win-loss record may skew it a little bit, and you could be tricked like, well, that they kind of caught fire, but they sucked last year, and you may miss that. And so I'm thinking by the end of the season, Dennis, we'll have those captured who were coming on at the team level. So I think this metric will be interesting to kind of watch that. And if I had time, I'd go back in the past and you know get some this poster, right? Is it predictive for things for next year if you catch teams going up and down that way? I don't see a lot of that in the metrics that I see. People, I mean, when you mention that, I understand, but I just wonder if people, I don't care, I don't what they, what are they, this is next year. That doesn't mean anything. And I'm telling you, my data says last year can be predictive of this year to certain extents. And I think people forget that. And this is another metric, Dennis. Again, I'm enamored with pace. Okay. Things happening
Yes.
fast and
Yes.
slow. And I think there's some secrets there that are not, there remains more to be discovered. Stop there. Let you comment.
Yeah, I I agree wholeheartedly. And I think what you're catching with this stat more than anything else is the efficient passing games. So in other words, Rams
Yes.
have a great running game too,
Kyron Williams.
but they hit you fast, and they can take the big chunks of yardage. And that is such a big advantage, and especially in fantasy football. That's something that we want versus, if I look at this chart, I say I want the receivers at the far left end of this deal. Now, the only minor exception to that rule is if you look at Baltimore and their receivers haven't been it. It's
Well,
been,
I think it's Jackson.
but it's Lamar. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all
and he's
Lamar.
running. But again, you see, it's just a beginning metric because if you
Yes.
ask me what are the factors that lead into this, that's where you use principal component analysis. What I'm saying, this sets you up for that deeper investigation that is lacking in fantasy. This metric is not the end, Dennis. It's just a, a beginning on, okay, why is that? See, you're going beyond the metric by, well, why is that? Correct. That is the correct way to go. It's just I'm starting here, and probably it's going to be a while before I get into that. But you're right. That's the questions. Why are the New Orleans Saints, their record is crappy, yet they're above league average in this metric? What has prevented them? And it could be the defense, because I almost need the flip side, defensive action, and I don't, per snap and speed of the defense. And you would then have two halves of the whole. And I don't know the ratio. I don't know the percent, and I'm sure it's different. I think each team, though, if you ask the question, offense and defense, there's not one way, there's not one equation. I think it's the interactions you have to get deeper still to figure that out. It's not simple. And that's why a lot of people don't want to do this because it's not simple. So if it's not simple, well, it must be luck. You know, i.e., if I can't figure it out, then it must not be real, and that's not it at all. That's a lazy way to
but
do
what
that.
this, yeah, yeah, and what this data is also showing, though, it's kind of interesting because if you look at the teams to the far left of this screen,
Yep.
they're also having a hard time keeping the opposing team off the board. So
Yeah.
they're hitting so fast
I mean,
that
we
they're
could
giving
chart the
opportunities back
defense
to
in
the other
here
team.
too. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah. But
that's
it's
almost another side of this. It
but
is
when it
another side.
but when it comes to New Orleans, that's just a sign that Rattler's doing a better job than he was expected to do.
Yes.
And, you know, I remember at the beginning of the season, I mean, that's the guy I was forecasting to win the job
Hmm.
between the two quarterbacks. Now, I didn't know if he would hold on to the job as well
Right.
as he has, but I expected him. I mean, when I was doing my predictions back in late May,
Hmm.
I gave an MVP forecast for Rattler, not for Shuck. So that was where I was planting my flag that Rattler is he's ready for prime time. He's not a horrible NFL quarterback. Uh, and that position really determines how that offense is going to go
Yeah.
because there's very few teams to that far right hand side. There's nobody, as a matter of fact, in that group of the last 5 or 6 teams on the list where they've been getting superb quarterback play from the start of the season. The Giants with Dart should move up and they should be back into that neutral zone
Yeah.
here when you go another 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
But Penix has been up and down. Stroud's been up and down. Murray's been average at best. Ward's been awful. Tua's been up and down. Herbert has been okay for the Chargers, but not much better than that. And then you got Carolina. Quarterback play has been really ugh. Cleveland. The quarterback play was so bad that they switched quarterbacks. And Vegas, Geno Smith has been horrible
And
as
look
well. I
at
mean,
Philly with Brown and Smith being up and down. That's
oof,
catching that, which it's hurt
yes,
me in some teams. Dennis, I went all in on that Hurts, Smith, Brown, Goddard stack. Goddard's the only thing that's pulling me out in a few of those teams. I was able to get the superfecta there, of all of them. And, if it wasn't for him, I'd be in worse shape. It's just I
yeah,
wouldn't have predicted that he was the go to, whereas Brown and Smith weren't. And I'm still trying
yeah,
to figure out what's going on there with Philly. I feel like there's more that could be there, but for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on there. It perplexes me, just like Indianapolis and Denver. I was thinking they should be better. And Green Bay, I mean, I guess there's just some teams with some real, love with Green Bay and Mayfield. They're average, their teams, and it's
yeah,
just is
yep,
that because the wide receivers are not where they need to be? I mean, with Tampa Bay, other than Ibuka, Goddard's, hurt again. I mean, with a different leg, Dennis, or a different area. So that's
yeah,
ucked.
yeah,
But I'm just, yeah,
yeah,
I like what you're doing is you're trying to get deeper with the questions, and that is the correct way. And I don't know if we used to do it. I don't remember doing this kind of depth, even by myself. My problem, without having you here to bounce things off and here, is I would kind of not, I would generate this, look at it, and I wouldn't, because I wanted to do more. So for me, the more data, the better. And I wasn't
Yes.
taking time to smell the roses, Dennis. You like to do that. So I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever, I don't think I've ever thanked you enough for that contribution. It's one of these things where, Abbott and Costello, I don't think you can figure it out. I feel like I am Abbott. But anyway, straight man gets 60% of the money, Dennis. Just remember, okay, when we get to big money, straight man always gets the money. Because it's harder to be the straight man. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm excited. Can you tell? I'm fired up about this
Oh
data.
yeah, and I'm fired up too. And this data is really, if you look at the player level to get an understanding
I
of
got
where
the
things
player
are
level. It's coming.
right now with the Rams using my MVP index. Did you know everybody in their skill position is at 100 or higher on MVP right now, with the exception of their tight ends?
Mm-mm.
That's it. They, every other position, Stafford's at 100. Adams
Yep.
is at a 100
Yeah.
right now. Kyron Williams is at 120. And Nakua is, of course, at 200, which is a perfect score. So it's no wonder
The
that they're that far
the
left.
boy, they tower 3 times maybe, or at least 2.5 times better than
Yeah.
Detroit.
Yeah. Well, if you look at every other team using my MVP index,
Mm-hmm.
there's only a couple of teams with more than two players over 100.
Yeah.
The Rams have everybody with the exception of their tight end. I mean, it really, you look at Dallas, they've got, Javonte Williams at 160. You've got Ferguson at 130. You got Pickens at 120. It's no wonder that they are, they should be actually higher than where they are. But then you look at the other guys and they bring it down, So this is very interesting because it's mimicking. If I were to produce a team level MVP, it's very much mimicking what the team level MVPs would say. So fascinating data. I just absolutely love looking at the data in this way. And Tampa, it really is understandable that they're in the middle ground because the only guys that are higher than 100 are Mayfield at 140 and Buka at 160.
Yeah.
And then Irving's at 125. So, but he's hurt, okay, and he's missed a couple of weeks now. So everybody else on Tampa is like not even showing up. They're like 80s, below 80. So it really explains why they're in the middle. And the interesting thing with Egbuka, so last year, the top wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, any given week, like any given stretch during the season, had a 143 MVP. It was Godwin until he got hurt. Then when he got hurt, Evans took over 143 through the end of the year. Egbuka's at a 160 right now. So we knew that lead wide receiver position was worth 140. Like it was a 140 position. So it's no wonder that Egbuka, who's been the only healthy wide receiver the whole season, is at that level right now. And that's where the forecast of the opportunity is why I grabbed him in so many leagues and was saying Egbuka and McMillan, these are the these are the rookie wide receivers you want to own, and then Golden was my third. But I expected Golden to be a late arrival. I expected Agbuka because Godwin wasn't going to be there. And then when Godwin came back, Evans is gone. I mean, he's had the perfect run of positional opportunity to be able to produce. And, if Tampa had a second wide receiver that was producing, or a tight end or somebody, that they'd be closer to that far left, but they don't. And the reason is also that their defense has been on the field too much. They've got a 4-1 record, Professor, but they have a 4-point positive point differential. That's insane. They've won 3 of the games in the last 30 seconds. That's the kind of, probably the kind of performance that can't sustain itself, and that's why they're in the middle. As a 4-1 team, you would expect them farther to the left, but they're in the middle because they're giving up as many points, and they're not. It's taking them a while to score, is what this data is saying, which is very interesting.
It is. It is. Okay, so I'll post this on the our site here, folks, and I also then have this. So Dennis, I have each team by the position, the weeks, and the average. Just scoring per touch. I walked away from pace, just kind of wanting to see things. And I like breaking by week, so I'm getting a little bit deeper and I can see what's going on and, what's happening. And you can look at Michael Carter last week. Look at, wow, that's 1.57 points
Wow.
per touch for the running backs right there with DeMarcado and whatnot. And the tight end, 1.66. And so you can look at that and look at the team level to see what's going on. And, just if you've got questions about what are the worst weeks for the position, the best weeks, what's the pattern. Look at Atlanta last game at home. Look at that's insane. And I think the week before
Wow.
away. And because you have extremes like that, is why the home away splits is catching that. You know, I think their first game might have been at home, and then I think they had 2 aways and another at home. So my home away efficiency catches, and this is another way to catch it. So I will have all the teams, Dennis, that you can go through. And so this is just more for reference, if dynasty or just trades or just lineups, just kind of see what's going on, see what you think. So I've got all the teams here, see what's happening. And then I
I'm
have,
curious. Go back to the Chiefs. I'm curious to see
okay,
where the Chiefs are
the
on this.
Chiefs.
I want to
Okay.
see where Mahomes is. I want to see where Mahomes is.
Okay. So
So
it's,
he's kind of middle of the pack.
he is middle of the
Yeah.
pack. And I've got, let's see, where is the PPR? Let's see. Here's quarterback for the Chiefs right there,
Yep.
almost
Middle of the
dead
pack.
even.
Yep. Very
So
interesting.
I've got this for the quarterback, Dennis. Baltimore, even with Lamar being out, look at, that first week, Lamar was tearing them up. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, the Jets, but the Philly, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Green Bay, Dallas, and Washington for the quarterback. And so you can see where your team position is and look at the weeks to see, boy, Goff had a crappy week 4 there. And so you can catch things like that. And, another thing is you could count the number of greens and just look at players, look at Phillies like 1, 2, 3. So 3 of the 5 have been pretty damn good, but look down here at Tennessee. All 4 of them have been sucky.
No.
Cleveland has been pretty sucky, 3 of the 4. Seattle has been sucky. Carolina has been on and off sucky. The Giants until Dart. Look at when Dart walked in that first week, and I bet he has something like that as well. He really
Oh yeah,
has
week
upped the
six
game. So
was
you,
strong.
yeah,
Yeah,
so you can look at that, and then I've got the running backs, the wide receiver or the tight ends, and the running backs, and then I have player level, Dennis. So this is player level touch per game and touch scoring per touch, so you can see who's done what, the activity and whatnot. And again, some of these are tricky because look at Carter with 12 touches per game versus DeMarcado. His average has been 3.
with 3. Yeah.
So you get an idea of usage. And anyway, but I've got each team figured out. You can look at that. So I think one could spend and take your data and just look at your team and find the player. And then, of course, I've got the player, Dennis, Jalen Daniel, as far as handling the ball themselves, 8.7. Not the best in scoring, but the top activity, Jalen Hurts right there. So those two, the 2 running quarterbacks, and then Josh Allen, Justin Fields is up there. So those 4 stand above the league, Dennis, in touching. So there's a lot of interesting things you can get out of this data here that I'm going to put. So it's kind of for our readers and listeners to use as reference. And Mahomes is not too bad. Kind of that next
No, he
group.
had
In other
one
words, if
bad
I had
week.
a tier,
One
I would
bad
say
week. Yeah.
tier 1, and he's in the tier 2 with
Yep.
Murray and Williams, May, and then look at more the passing guys, right? Spencer's on the bottom of that tier, and then if you look at the next tier, these are the ones that don't have a lot of mobility, and you can kind of spot who's who and what's what. They have to make it up elsewhere. And here's the running backs. There's probably not a big surprise here. Maybe I'm seeing Brees Hall down there. That sucked. As far as I mean, you talk about skill versus opportunity.
Yeah, he's just yeah,
He's
he's just not
good,
getting the
but they
volume.
don't
He's
give
not
him
getting the
enough.
volume.
Look at
Yep.
CMC.
Yep.
Jacobs.
It,
I'm expecting Jacobs and Bucky Irving. Boy, we need you. Come on back.
only 8 guys, only 8 running backs over 20 a game right now.
Yeah,
That's skimpy.
that
That's a
is.
skimpy,
And again, having this a couple times during the season, I'll go back and look at this. But my big question is if you have a running back like that, what is the structure of the other positions? To put it together like that. So I need to look at and ask the question: having a skewed running back, does that really take away from the wide receivers, or does that help the tight end? Or you see the questions that can be generated, but you can't generate the questions till you generate the data. See, that's where if you're not used to generating this data, then how can you get deeper on your questions? So you're left with very thin data, Dennis, and you, in my opinion, thin opinions. And we hear a lot of that. If you want a lot of that, it's out there. Fantasy receipts will track you up for that. It's just how thin it all is. Because I know people got families, and part of it is people don't have the time that I have to devote to this. I mean, it's hours a week of thinking, and I look at the data and I think and I think. But anyway, if you've got any questions, because this is meant for deeper thinking and pattern analysis, and Dennis can, if he has time, he doesn't have time, but if he had time, he could really probably pull out things that I'm missing, on this and look at the levels.
Well, what I see immediately is that Bucky Irving's been a volume guy this year.
Yes.
Like that's where, all of a sudden, if he comes back from injury and is back in the lineup, and now we're seeing closer to 15 or 16 touches a game,
Yeah.
it'll explain why his performance has gone down. So
Yeah.
this data is a great way of looking at the big picture. And the interesting thing is uh, when we saw Bucky out last week, people were expecting more of a split between White and Tucker. And I was like, no, because we're not seeing a split with Irving and White this year like we did. So
Right.
Irving's been the guy. I expect White to be the guy. And I had no problem putting White into my starting lineups, and I didn't put any Tucker
Well,
in
take a look.
because I was
One
concerned
point.
about that.
Yeah. So look at his scoring, 1.28, Sean
Yeah.
Tucker. But
Yep.
look at Irwin. So they were actually closer, and White actually,
Yep.
they've been closer than you think in scoring, but in actual touches per game,
Touches. Yeah. Yeah.
big difference.
And with
So
White
White's
getting the
been
same
over
volume.
scoring
Yeah.
relative to his touches.
But
That's
he got the same volume
as
as
far as
Bucky, and look at that.
touches.
He didn't drop off at all.
No,
Like,
no, he didn't.
very
So
fascinating data. There's a lot of secrets laying in this data,
I think so.
and
Look at
we
Ibuka, by the
also
way.
need, oh man, he hasn't exactly been a
Well,
big huge
5.4
target guy.
average. Yeah, 5.4, we can actually
That's
look at where he stacks up.
yeah, he's
5.4 is right here.
yeah,
So he's tier two as far if we rated him by touches per game, Dennis,
yep, yep,
or catches per game. Touches with wide receivers means it's in their hand, right? Unless he's rushing, and I'm catching both the
right.
rushers, but not a lot. So I feel like there's more because if you look at the points per touch, 3.7, Dennis, a Doomsday is 4.1. So those two tower above the rest of the field. You talk about Roma Doomsday. Dennis, look at what he's done.
And look at yeah,
Yeah. So, uh, you know, I mean, if I was a dynasty person, I'd be seeing this and saying, man, that's insane. So this is about the top 30. He's number one. Abuke's number two as far as that stat. And I'm not
right.
sure people are talking about that as much as they need to.
No, and I think your top guys, like 2.5 using this metric, is about where your top guys are all hanging out. And then the difference is the volume.
Yeah.
And look
Yes.
at Olave. He's way below,
At
but he's
1.8.
getting the volume. He's like, and that's exactly this year when we were taking a lot of Olave. We're saying it was a volume play.
Yeah.
And we were exactly right.
And
I mean,
DJ Moore is the same. Those guys are only two below two. Yet there's,
yeah, and
go ahead.
yeah, and you think of it this way, when a Dunze starts getting more in the lines of 7
Can you
touches per
imagine
game,
him at 6 and 7?
yeah,
Oh
and
my
that's going to happen.
goodness.
Like it's going to happen that he
Boy,
gets
if I would have
more.
known this, I would have drafted a lot more of him. Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, I didn't have enough with Dunze
I
in,
didn't either,
but here's
Dennis.
the way I handled the but the way I handled the Bears, the way I handled the Bears this year was I'm just not certain. So I'm not spending on either guy at price
Yeah.
because I thought they were both priced pretty good. And I didn't know which one was going to be more dominant. I thought it was a Dunze, but I wasn't sure.
Well,
And
Moore
he is,
dominates by touches per game, but points per touch, it's not even
yeah,
close.
I guess a Dunze will not have to wait to be a third year breakout guy.
No, to me, when I start seeing this kind of metric, so imagine, Dennis, next year we can have that, and then I can drop, and I hadn't done that, but I could drop per second in here. So not only could we measure this, but we can measure how fast they're gathering these points. So their speed,
and
the speed at which the team
yep.
is setting them up. I mean, I think there's some stuff that people are going to miss and undervalue. And I think, now the speed, when they get all these, tracking metrics, they've got them, but they hadn't, it's not in the data yet. I think I've got a window. It's kind of like before the buyer number in horse racing. You have this window if you do your own, that
Yes.
once it's
Yes.
common knowledge, then it's going to shift things. I think once the speed and pace of things is settled more with they'll track everybody's speed, you know, and I think you'll have the how defenses deal with speedy people. You know, we don't know that. How does each? That's almost another category. If you have a fast tight end or a slow tight end, what's your points against? We don't have that data. I'm telling you, that data's coming, Dennis, to where we'll be asking the question in our analysis, what flavor tight end, a speedster or not? Or maybe it's the height, maybe speed and height. And that's how we'll be. So we'll be breaking apart. And of course, once you separate the data points, instead of 17, data points, then we'll have half that maybe if it splits equal. You know, in other words, then you're in the problem. You don't have enough data to really be predictive. So we can out data ourselves at some point. We need to be playing football 365, Dennis, to finally get enough data points for you and I to take a real advantage. So maybe they'll have Europe
Yep.
that will go or something. We can track it there, more data points.
Very fascinating data. And
Dennis, we
I
can talk.
like there's so many things that I'm catching in here. If you look at where Tutoria McMillan is on volume already, I I'm surprised he's so close to 5 touches a game already
Right,
that you know as the season wears on, he's likely to get more volume. He's
right.
going to be another guy to lean into because he's getting the performance out of what volume he's got now.
Yep.
If he increases by a touch and a half a game,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're moving him up into that elite top 12 category. This is fascinating stuff because I do think there is a secret to if we see a guy, for instance, if we latch on to a guy who is so consistent in this stat, and one of the guys is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Look how consistent he is week to week
Yes.
relative to others.
Right.
He may never, he's not necessarily the top dog any given week, but he's always in like the top six in this category. That's a very interesting. The only exception is there's week one, which we know is a disastrous game for Detroit on the road, and that was his weakest
Uh,
game. But you take that one away,
yeah.
and all of a sudden you're talking some
Well, and
serious stats.
Dennis,
And if you
I
look at his
can,
home and away splits,
yeah,
it's his home and away splits almost a 1.5 difference on this chart.
yeah,
That's insane. That is insane.
yeah. And I think when I have all 17, I think I can go back and look at calm data and instead of measuring total points, I could measure this metric. So look at somebody like Quentin Johnson and look at
Oh
last
boy,
week, 1.38. That
got hurt
stands out.
in the middle
Yeah,
of the game.
yeah,
Got
yeah,
yep,
you can see it. Look at Wandale
yep,
Robinson, you know, look at Shakir. So shows for whatever reason, they had a bad week. In other words, you talk about, 1.84 with Olave actually wasn't his worst week at all. That's more average.
yep,
But
yep.
it's another way to judge and look at CeeDee Lamb. He was okay, but it wasn't above three. I mean, if you look at how many have been above three twice, that's the kind of data. Amon St. Brown has almost done it 3 out of 5, Dennis.
Wow,
You know,
wow.
JSN once, okay? Chase once. Look at Garrett Wilson 3 times, 3 out of 5. So you could judge, we could have kind of a calm situation where you have some metrics, some levels, and if they exceed, they get more points, and if they don't, you could score them. That way is a touch metric that
Look at
way.
look at Obike. He's got 4/3
Oh
out of
yeah,
5 games. His worst game at
is
2.42
is bet
is
is
still,
almost better than Lamb best game.
oh yeah. Isn't
Yeah,
that crazy? That is
it,
crazy. And that's a rookie.
and
That's the scary part is what is this guy going to be doing by the end of the year if he's staying healthy?
right,
Because we always know that you know, when you compare apples to apples,
yeah.
that last 8 games is better than the first 8 with
And
rookies.
look at somebody like
They learn this game
Trey
fast.
Tucker. If Trey keeps doing that, he will be this year's Tyler Lockett. Look at the highs
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lows, two
Yep.
lows.
Yep.
So for best ball, he's probably a really interesting target. If he keeps on like this for next year, we can go back and make some conclusions about these spiky players that would have more value in best ball. I think next year, we always say this, right? We're going to know more than this year, and I just, Dennis,
Well, it's
I
been
need
the
some
truth.
damn
It's been the
interns,
case.
huh? What now? I need some damn
Yeah, no,
interns.
it it really is the case. We are learning. We are gaining experience about 3 years worth every year at
Yeah,
this
this is
point. And this the study that you inspired, where I'm going back and look at an MVP scores for everybody.
yes. I want to
It's
see that
already
data. Yeah,
yeah, it's already cluing me into some fun things where there are some players that they get they get kind of drafted one year, they're the hot guy to draft.
yep,
And then the next year it drops off. Well, if you look at the MVP scores, like for instance, Terry McLaurin is a classic example. So he had a 64 as a rookie, and he was left alone year two. People were like letting him go cheap. 93 the next year. Then year three, he was more expensive. He dropped off to an 81. So people were like, maybe he's just kind of ordinary. He dropped off to a 76. They left him alone. He jumped up, or he went to a 65. And then last year jumped to an 88 with a better quarterback.
Right.
So we know what that player is. We know where he's going to be. And similarly, like A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So A.J. Brown, he had a 63 as a rookie, 114 his second year, dropped to a 67, which tells you that he can have a bad year. Oh. And then he went 100, 106, 133 last year. So this year is not a huge surprise that he's back down into his low year status. If I see guys that have a bad year, drafting them that could be coming back around again. Like there's cycles in everything. And I believe there's a cycle in fantasy football versus a guy like Devontae Adams. Once he started at a minus 27 his rookie year. He was a 0 his second year. Since his third year, he's been an 87, 93, 160, 117, 150, 144, 106, 82, and a 100. That's insane how consistent. He has not been under 80 since year 3.
Yep.
And here he is in year 12, and he's at a 100 after 5 weeks.
Yep.
That is a player that is so bulletproof. And he's played 10 or more games every season as well, which is another nice bonus. You look at some of these guys and they've had an injury. They haven't gone more than 3 or 4 years in a row without an injury coming back.
Nice.
So I think we're going to discover some very interesting patterns with this data that will let us know how safe a player is. I went on record. I'm Rob St. Brown, I said, was my number 1 dynasty player because of his consistency from year to year. He started out at 69 his rookie year, then 120, 144, 124.
Yep.
That's insanely consistent from year to year. And he's played 14 or more games every year as well, which is a nice bonus versus, other players who have missed some time. So this data, my MVP
Are you excited
data,
or what? Yeah.
All of these things go together so well.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we're going to spot some patterns that help us forecast the future. And that's what the game is all about. If you are better, like this year, I was so sure. Garrett Wilson, 53, 59, 88. I said, I had him forecast for over 100 in MVP this year. And I was like, this is my guy. He's got no competition for targets, a better quarterback situation to fit what they got to do. The defense is even less strong than it was, so they're going to have to score points. They're going to get a lot of garbage time. Yeah. That was an easy forecast this year to clue in to Garrett Wilson being ready for a big year. Right. That was an easy prediction, but some of these other, I think there's so much data that can be deciphered through this whole mix.
We have a guest, Dennis, in our pre-show. Mason. DSA. Welcome, sir.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We have icons just to lower the bandwidth, but I'll start my video. There I am. I'm an old guy. Okay. This is my old dog. with the old guy.
Oh,
This is
nice.
Dennis.
How's it going, man?
Yeah. Hey, so our format is we usually do a pre-show where we just talk data. You just missed some fun data. You can catch up if you want. My dog wants extra love here. Uh, and yeah, yeah, and
usually
see
the
it. Yeah,
usually my cat is right here to yell at his dog. So
yeah, yeah,
which is another reason we keep the video off.
yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
No worries.
um, we do this every Saturday, 9:30 Central Time, and here. So you are welcome to just. You could be quiet. You can jump in. Whatever. We
Yeah.
don't. There's no pressure on you or anything. Like I said, we just went through a bunch of data that I had, and we probably went round and round on it, Dennis. And we were going to actually start the actual real show, so you can be part of the real show if you've got. And we're going to talk about. Usually, we talk about three games, Dennis. Three games. Usually,
Correct,
yeah,
correct. This on the show today, I thought we'd do Cincinnati, Green Bay,
yeah,
San Francisco, Tampa Bay,
yeah,
and then New England and the Saints were
yeah.
the
And
games that
then
I had.
for the TSA matchup, we're going to do four games. So if you're welcome to stay. We're just going to record that right after this show. So we'll shut this down and start the matchup, and we'll
Okay.
focus. So we do really two podcasts in one for our site, Science of Fantasy. And
Hmm.
Mason, if you haven't been there, we have a lot of resources that on off season you can catch up. If you've got any
Okay.
questions, if you want to learn, and I'm a teacher. I'm a retired college professor.
Oh, really? I'm going to school. I'm trying to become a teacher right now.
Yeah,
So,
Oh
so
wow,
yeah, so I'm a retired biologist from the university. So I like to teach. So be glad if you've got specific questions or you want to learn some metrics, you want to see what we're doing. This can be a
yeah.
beginning of you interacting as long as you want, right?
No,
There's
for
no
sure, man.
pressure or anything.
Yeah, I'll probably just like be in the background, like flying the wall today. I got my kids over here. My daughter's
That's
3,
okay.
my son's 5, so they can be loud randomly. So I'll just kind
We
of
no
be a fly on
worries.
the wall and kind of just see what you guys do, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you can you don't have you can just
Always welcome.
yeah, everybody's welcome. I'm gonna hide. That's my icon. I had AI develop. I sent in Professor
Cool.
Fantasy. When I
Yeah.
put Dennis in, this crazy looking researcher here.
It's
and
like
and
mad
that was
scientist
and
kind
that was actually pretty accurate, minus the tie.
Yeah,
If you just change to like a polo shirt, that's how I looked when I hosted the morning a morning radio show for 6 years here in
Oh,
town.
that's cool.
That's about how I looked after about 6 cups of coffee.
yeah.
So
Look at them eyes. Them eyes are
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Anyway,
very
so
accurate. Very
so
accurate.
Dennis, before we start the show, so I got a couple questions for Mason. So Mason, how long have you been doing fantasy?
So I've been playing since 2017, but I mean, I've always watched football and stuff. But my
Yeah,
wife, girlfriend at the time, she, during COVID, she's like, you need an outlet, dude. So I went to Twitter, and no one in America would like let me write for them or do podcasts. So I had to write for 5 Yard Rush, and they're out of Europe. So I
yeah,
started there, and I end up now I write and rank for Fantasy Pros, and I
Very
scout for the
cool.
Triangle and do a bunch of stuff. But
that's
um,
great.
fairly new. But I mean, I've always been with the game, but more so about like the X's and O's, the draft process, kind of more so behind the scenes what
Right,
makes the teams click instead of just, looking for the big plays or the highlight stuff that really makes and generates the NFL the real revenue.
right. So
Very
Mason, where do
cool.
you live? Part of the world or country?
Northern California.
California.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, I've been all around the world. I lived in Kansas, Louisiana. I was in the military for
Oh,
like
Oh,
12
military.
wow.
years.
So
So
Barksdale,
that was a long
where were
range.
you stationed in Louisiana? Barksdale? No.
At Fort Polk.
Ah, okay. I know Fort Polk. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
My
over. I
wife,
went up.
yeah, my wife's from Alexandria, Louisiana. That's where she was
Oh,
born.
okay.
Yeah.
I've been
So
around
from
there in
Alec, yeah.
Natchitoches and
So she grew up there. So I love
okay.
Louisiana cooking. I'm from Arkansas.
Oh, it's
So
good, man.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
crawfish they're my jam.
yeah. We
Suck the head
love,
out and everything.
probably hard to get some good gumbo in California, I suspect.
I mean, you got to make it yourself. It
Yeah,
costs a lot more than if I was going over to my dad's house in Louisiana and doing it and throwing it on the table outside, But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we get down sometimes. I'm not too much of a fish guy or seafood guy though.
Yeah,
More of
yeah,
a
I
turf
bet.
guy myself.
Yeah. Well, crawfish are good whenever you get them there. So,
Oh,
what's
for
your
sure.
favorite team? Is it
The,
the
the 49ers,
Saints? Who?
49ers, San Francisco.
Oh, come on, man. You're from Louisiana now. I'm a Saints
No.
fan.
I'm from California. I was just
Oh,
stationed over there, and my dad's from there. He joined the Air Force and was stationed here in California and
oh,
linked up with my mom.
yeah.
And so
Well, that's great. Well,
I got Southern roots and then I got California.
yeah, California.
What's
Okay.
that?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
California. Dennis and I love horse racing, so we're very familiar with the Santa Anita and Del Mar. And San Francisco
Oh, okay.
used to have Golden Gate Fields and Bay Meadows
Still
back
Yep.
does.
in the day.
Still does. Yep.
Yep.
Yep, back
I
in the
think Bay
day.
Meadows is closed, but
Is
I think Golden
Golden
Gate's
Gate
still
still
open.
I've always
up?
wanted to go out there, man. I need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
they
love
and
horse racing.
also yeah, they run at the Sacramento Fairgrounds as
Yeah, the
well.
Mm.
So
fairgrounds. Yeah, they do
in the
the
valley. So
California Fair Circuit. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Well, Mason, that's great. We're into metrics. Like I said, retired biologist. Uh, you know, uh, data analysis. Been doing that all my life. Dennis is a weather guy, so he's been doing predictions and data analysis. So we're heavily on the
Based on like the
metrics.
weather and stuff too.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
he knows weather.
I forecasted 15 years.
That's so
At
underrated, man. That's a good
Yep.
call. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was with United Airlines for 15 years
Oh,
of my
wow.
career, and San Francisco was my expertise. It's a very unique airport with a unique set of weather variables, but they built the
Mhm.
two runways too close together because the
Oh,
environmentalists wouldn't let them, fill in more of the bay way
oh,
back in the day. So they they have it drops from 102 arrival rate to like 40, just like
oh,
that.
man.
So they were really weather sensitive. So I developed a statistical based formula for forecasting the weather that's still used by the government and
Sick.
private meteorologists with the airlines to this day. But I invented that back in the 90s. So
Wow.
it's San Francisco. I almost ended up it after my time before my time at United went away. I was actually offered the job to run the airline weather service unit in Oakland, California, but I looked at the real estate prices there and decided that on a government salary I'd have to live about 40 miles away. So
Uh,
I decided not to do that. And then
yeah.
2 years later, United closed down. So, but enjoying semi-retirement now. I do a radio show. I do some sports play-by-play, and do this with the professor, and seem to. I enjoy. I've always enjoyed fantasy football, and having a fellow scientist that understands how to attack statistics in a smart way is really gotten me way down deep into the weeds on statistics now. But um, probably will be leaning on your expertise for the draft next year. I'll be bugging you.
Yeah,
Hey,
sounds
who
good
do
to
you
me.
like? Because I'll tell you my with my way of looking at the draft, I kind of dabble in looking at the talent, but I've been better at figuring out where the opportunities are than who's more talented.
That's what it's about, honestly. It's about
Yep.
that. And then you have to look at position and the dollar sign behind that position as early as
Yes.
they go as well. I mean, right now it's early in the college year, so there's like 7 quarterbacks they're talking about that can go in the first round. We saw last year that could not be the case, further away. So it really just depends on the year and looking at the data for that.
And I'm not crazy about any of the quarterbacks that are potentially coming out next year.
Yeah.
I look at the landscape of that group and I'm like, is there a single guy that is going to make an impact on
Not
a
immediately.
franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem is nobody's
All
patient.
potential. I like
Yeah.
Drew Aller, but he's like, man, he needs a lot of work, man. Elise, come here, baby. Here, give me a second. I gotta run around and grab my kids real quick.
That's
No
okay.
worries.
Well, that's neat, Dennis.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
catch those kids there. Beat them good.
Yeah, I remember those days when
Yeah.
you couldn't get stuff done.
Yeah.
You were just constantly
Yeah.
chasing after the little ones that boy, I don't miss those days.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm going
Oh
to
my goodness.
stop the recording of the pre-show.